The New York Jets need to earn the right to make their next big quarterback investment. In my opinion, might even go as far as to say they should be temporarily banned until further notice from making a big quarterback investment in the first round. And this question comes in from my guy Mike S, who says, "Hey, BJF means BJF, whatever. Doesn't matter. Every week the team shows more and more holes. Right now, the Jets have the number 2 pick in the draft. I'd trade back and fill the holes on the roster before we ruin another top 3 pick." Man, September 30th at the time of this recording. Look, we don't rip full mock off seasons until January on this channel. That is a hard and fast rule, but we're it's a rebuild. They're 0-4, so we're going to zoom out and like talk about the future of the team as the future of the team becomes more important than the present with each game that they lose. Now, look, in terms of which quarterback you like and that draft pick, they're probably going to win some games. Be picking 6th or 7th or 8th like they always are. So let's not get too hung up on that right now. But I'll give you an allegory to the Jets quarterback situation. You know, when I was in my early 20s, I got my first apartment and I wanted to adopt a dog, right? I had a family dog growing up, like, get a dog, right? And I go to the shelter and I'm like, hey, let me get a dog. But apparently you had to fill out application. You had to like get references and show that you were employed. And they wanted to make sure that you either had the certain amount of square footage in your apartment or like a backyard for the dog. I didn't meet the requirements. How about that? The lady with the blue hair and the bull ring said, "No, you are not ready for a yellow lab." Okay. Well, I think such a person might need to tell that to the New York Jets. They do not have the requisite apartment space or backyard ready to adopt a quarterback. They do not until further notice. And I think one of the goals of this season is either A, Field shows that he could be the guy, or B, they show that if he's not, they show that they are ready to adopt a quarterback. Because right now, man, people, again, I have people telling me like, oh, well, gotta get the quarterback. Like you watch these games and you think you're gonna put Garrett Nussmeier or Lenora Sellers in here and we're good to go. Like God bless them if they do that. Truly, I can't imagine that being my mindset after watching this team. And look, it is what it is. If they have a high draft pick and they don't know they have a guy, they might have to take one. Like I get it. We'll get to that if the time comes. I just can't imagine like, hey, John Mateer, baby, slide right in and work. Like we have the worst defense in the NFL. We can't even like we gotta show some competence, man. We gotta like, okay, we gotta be able to have a kick returner. Why does kick returner matter in a rebuild? Because it is a microcosm of being detail oriented. If you can demonstrate that can have a kick returner that can understand, hey, this ball is going out of bounds, it's going to come back to the 50 and not fumble it and not get a fair catch at the 2-yard line. Teams that are ready to adopt a quarterback don't have those things happening. It's a ripple effect all the way throughout the team. And yes, sometimes there are guys who come out of the draft. Andrew Luck, 2-win team on my back. Boom, you're a perennial playoff team until their offensive line got his body so beat up he had to retire before 30 years old. There's those guys every now and then. But for the most part, it's kind of in the middle. It's guys like Sam Darnold who look unplayable in a bad situation and now is going to be hosting a home playoff game for the second year in a row, right? It's guys like Bo Nix. Do I think Bo Nix is very good? Honestly, not really. But what can I say? He's a guy who fits their system, does what they ask him to do. It's conducive enough to winning. They were in the playoffs last year. They'll be in the playoffs again this year. What can I say as a Jet fan to sneeze at Bo Nix and what he's done so far? Bo Nix, if the Jets drafted him in whatever last year, let's say they moved on from Rodgers a year earlier, whatever, hypothetically, drafted Bo Nix last year and threw him out there, he would have looked unplayable on the Jets. He would have looked like Will Levis or Zach Wilson. Does anybody deny that? If you put him out there with Nate Hackett and company, he would have looked unplayable. No doubt about it. And that's where most quarterbacks who are drafted kind of fall. Some are just so bad it doesn't matter what situation they're in, like Josh Rosen. Again, Andrew Luck on the opposite end of the spectrum, but most quarterbacks kind of live in that Bo Nix to Sam Darnold aisle, and you got to be ready to adopt one. And I think one of my goals with Justin Fields this year, who, by the way, I don't know, I didn't come away from that game like, oh, damn, that pesky Justin Fields, like you did with many Zach Wilson games where you had a top five defense, a top five special teams, but your offense couldn't score 16 points. The Buffalo game, the whole team was bad, but 2 out of 3 Justin Fields games, when the Jets offense has the ball with Fields and Brees and Garrett, it's not perfect and Engstrom, but I'm excited to see it. I actually feel confident that we could drive down the field and score points right now with Fields. Truly. And I think as a fan, like my hope for this year for Fields and the Jets, trying to coach him up is, can Justin Fields play at a level where the Jets are not operating out of a point of desperation next year at the quarterback spot, right? Because let's say Fields starts to play pretty well and he looks more like the second half against the Dolphins and the Steelers game, if that's more of his baseline than the Bills game, then okay. And you don't make the playoffs and you're like, okay, we don't know enough to say he's the guy, but you know what? We can go into this draft and we can feel it out. Oh, you know what? A QB that we didn't like, a QB that we love got taken before us. We don't have a first round grade on anyone else. We could trade this pick. We can build the roster, right? We can stomach Fields another year, have him run around out there, and maybe we can compete for a wild card with Fields. Maybe we're going to take a quarterback in the second round to sit behind Fields for a year. If we fall out of contention late, then we can play in the last month of the season. Like, it gives you options. It gives you options. If the Jets are a 2-win team and Fields is playing horribly, then guess what? They are going to take whatever quarterback is available to them in the first round, and he's going to be on the field in September, October to try and save their job, just like the Giants and Jackson Dart. They said, we're going to sit him. Yeah. No, you're not, because you're going to try to save your job. So they need to earn the right to adopt a quarterback. You look at the 3 teams that have been the most successful in our division the last 3 years, the last 5-6 years: Chiefs, Ravens, Bills. All of them got drafted their current franchise quarterback, who were all flawed prospects. Like, now you just have that they've all won MVP, so that's your memory of them. But let's not forget, like, there was former NFL GMs telling Lamar Jackson to switch to wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes was no slam dunk. He was no Joe Burrow. He was like Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence were considered better prospects at the time than him. Ditto that, Josh Allen. And all 3 of those teams made the playoffs before they drafted that quarterback. The Bills broke their playoff drought with the Jets' current backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. The Chiefs did that with Alex Smith, who's the quintessential game managing QB. The Ravens with a Joe Flacco, who was kind of at the very end of being a starter. He was more towards like bridge level quarterback at that point. And now, maybe I'm not saying you have to have a playoff mandate before you can ever make a quarterback investment again, but we know what it looks like, man. You know what it doesn't look like. You know what it doesn't smell like, man. And it doesn't smell like what we've seen the first 4 weeks. Like, for starters, have a top 20 offense. Have a top 20 offense with Justin Fields this season. I think that's a reasonable bar. And if you have the 18th best offense and you feel like Fields is, that's his kind of his ceiling as a 6th-year player, and you want to draft okay, fine. If you go out there and you have the 27th best offense, and then you're going to say, Fernando Mendoza, well, get in there, kid. All right. I don't know, man. I would make sure that you are ready to adopt a QB, earn the right to adopt a QB, and don't look for one to bail you out. Doesn't work that way most of the time. And we'll talk about soon.